John Legend, thanks so much for joining me on the show tonight. John, the last time we spoke, it was the night before the election. And I remember you said to me that you thought democracy was at stake. Biden, of course, then won. Trump lost. But given everything that's happened since, is democracy still at stake in your view? In fact, is it maybe more in danger now than it was a year ago?
Yes, it's certainly in danger because after having lost the election, clearly, the folks on the right believe that instead of winning elections, they're going to simply change the rules of elections to make it much harder for people on the other side to vote. They're going to make it so that state level GOP officials could try to overturn the results that the people chose. They're trying all kinds of chicanery and skullduggery to make sure that they maintain power despite the fact that they're not able to convince a majority of people to vote for them.
Yes, indeed. It is skullduggery and bad faith tactics on their part. You are a Democrat, John. You support Democratic candidates at multiple levels of government. Yeah. Why do you think it is the Democratic Party as a whole, with a handful of exceptions, Stacey Abrams, the Texas House Democrats, why is the party as a whole not taking more direct and urgent action to secure our voting rights, to do what has to be done to save democracy? I feel like time is running out and Democratic leaders in the White House, in the Senate, in the House are just talking but not acting.
I think Democrats sometimes can be afraid to get in the trenches and do the fighting that we need to do to actually win these battles. I can promise you the Republicans don't have any scruples about getting dirty, doing anything they need to win these power struggles. And we have justice on our side. We have right on our side. We have equality on our side. And we should be willing to fight for those rights. We should be willing to fight for every American to have a voice in our elections. We win when the elections are fair, when we have high turnout, when democracy and suffrage is experienced to the fullest extent. We win. So we should be willing to fight for that. We don't have to be dirty, but we do have to fight. We have to get in the trenches and do the fighting.
John, I have to ask, if you could have a conversation one-on-one with either Joe Manchin or Kyrsten Sinema, what would you say to them?
It's funny because I actually spoke to Kyrsten Sinema. I did a fundraiser at our house in Los Angeles for the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. This was years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and she at the time was vociferously standing up for the filibuster. One of the attendees at the fundraiser asked a question about the filibuster, and there were several of the senators that were there who were willing to get rid of the filibuster. But even at that time, Senator Sinema stood up for the filibuster, and I just can't say more clearly how wrong I think she is on this issue. I believe that, one, the filibuster is not in the Constitution. That's a fact. It never was in the Constitution. It's just a rule that sprung up and kind of evolved. And the history and tradition of the rule has been to exclude black people from our democracy. That has been the principal use of the filibuster over the years. And even then, when they used it historically in the Jim Crow era, at least they had to stand up and speak for hours and hours. It was a dramatic, abnormal thing to happen in the Senate. And now the filibuster has made it so that every single bill, except for the few exceptions, has to go through this process where if somebody just sends an email saying they're going to filibuster it, that means it requires 60 votes to break it. It has clearly departed from any semblance of what the original intent for the rule was, and it wasn't even in the Constitution. It's time to get rid of it. It's allowing one senator at any time, it's allowing 40 senators at any time to derail the will of the majority. And you combine that with the fact that Wyoming has the same number of senators as California, and you see how skewed our democracy is, where we just don't have any semblance of a real representative democracy when this can happen.
I'm glad you mentioned the racist history of the filibuster and our skewed democracy, because I did want to ask you, you are a prominent black man in America. How much of our debate over voting rights and denying people voting rights is driven by racism, by white supremacy, by Jim Crow on steroids, to quote the president? How much of that is what's, driving all of this?
Well, it's not really that relevant what's in the hearts of the people trying to get rid of people's voting rights. It's not really salient to what's going on. It's a matter of what the actual effect of what their choices and their rules are. And they know where their voters are, and they know where voters aren't. And so when they're making these rules, it's not because they hate black people. It's because they know that by and large, black people are voting for Democrats. And so they want, if it's a clearly identifiable group with a certain amount of characteristics that are common, and they can find ways to, get rid of some of those voters in one way or another, whether it's through felony disenfranchisement or ID laws or all these other barriers. They just want to pick off a few here, a few there, and they figure if they target enough of those folks that are likely to vote for Democrats, then they'll have a better chance of winning. It's not because they have particular animus toward black people, probably, but it doesn't matter if they do. It's a power play. It's saying you're not voting for us, and since you're not, we're going to try to make it harder for you to vote. And that's what's happening. So, and John, some of it may be a result of actual animus toward black people and the belief that black people's opinions don't matter as much. But what's actually happening is they're targeting young people, they're targeting black people, they're targeting anybody who they think might not vote for them and trying to make it harder for them to vote.
One area where it seems pretty brazenly racist is the denial of voting rights, not just to prisoners who are disproportionately black in many areas, but ex-prisoners too, people who have served their time. You have campaigned for quote-unquote full suffrage, for granting prisoners and former prisoners the right to vote. You helped win the Florida referendum on this issue back in 2018 with a supermajority. What do you say, John, to critics who say it's fine for ex-prisoners to vote, for people who've served their time, but not people still serving time in prison? That's not fair. That's not right. That's not popular. What's your response to that argument?
Well, I don't believe that fundamental rights should be subject to what's popular or not. I believe fundamental rights, particularly voting, which is so basic to the idea of us being a democracy, should be rights that every citizen of this country gets. They don't have to earn them. They don't have to be good people. They don't have to be smart people. They don't have to be any quality that we admire in a person. They can be people that we might not want to hang out with, that we might not trust. Everybody in this country should have the fundamental right to vote. It's not a privilege that you earn. It's not something you take a test to attain a certification that you can vote, though they used to try to do that. Every citizen of this country is affected by the laws. We as a collective should together pick our representatives and make sure that our voices are heard. And there are about 5 million people in the country who are disenfranchised because of a felony conviction. 75% of them are still out in the world. They're, able to possibly work and live in their community. They're paying taxes. They're doing all sorts of things. So they're disenfranchised because of their felony conviction. And 25% of those folks are actually still in prison. So either way, I believe they're all citizens of this country and they all have the right to vote. They should have the right to vote. And we should fight for that for everyone. Full suffrage is better for all of us. Everyone is affected by our democracy, so they should have a voice in it.